So, there we have it. Decision made. Michael Carrick is to remain as Boro boss for now. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and a huge video to drop today as we kind of expected, as we anticipated. We thought today on Monday we would get an answer or an indication as to where Boro were going to go in regards to Michael Carrick and his future as Middlesbrough head coach. I didn't think they'd leave it any later than today, one way or the other, but they've decided. Steve Gibson has made the call to stick with Michael Carrick as Boro boss for the foreseeable, for the season, for the next 2 games. We don't quite know, but let's have a look at what was said before we talk through it. So the initial tweet from Scott Wilson from the Northern Echo reported 3 main bullet points. Obviously, the exclusive headline was that Boro are backing Michael Carrick to stay as head coach. Firstly, it mentions Steve Gibson backing Carrick to deliver promotion. That's not just playoffs, that's promotion. Business as usual was quoted, with Carrick preparing for Bristol City, which is of course this Friday evening. Internal support for Carrick's integrity and leadership was also mentioned, and then digging deeper into the article itself, it mentions Carrick's position was called into question in the aftermath of the 1-0 loss at the Riverside. Of course, that was at the weekend at home to Watford, which saw us slip to 11th. However, despite suggestions that the former England international's position could be in jeopardy, the Boro hierarchy intend to back Michael Carrick and do all they can to support his attempts to secure promotion this season. It moves on to say Boro chairman Steve Gibson remains fully supportive of Carrick's efforts and continues to regard the 43-year-old as the right man to spearhead the club's attempts to make it back to the Premier League. Gibson is understood to value Carrick's leadership, honesty and demeanour extremely highly, and while there is understandable disappointment at recent results, which have seen Boro suffer 4 league defeats in a row, there is no desire to change head coach. Instead, with the T-Siders 4 points adrift of the playoffs ahead of Friday night's game at Bristol City, Gibson and the rest of the Boro hierarchy are determined to do everything they can to support Carrick and the rest of his coaching staff. It will be business as usual at Rockcliffe this week, with Carrick in charge of the side at Ashton Gate this Friday. It also squashes reports that dropped last night from TalkSport, which I thought were complete utter rubbish anyway. You can't trust TalkSport as far as you can throw them. It does squash reports that suggested Steve Cooper and Rob Edwards had been sounded out as potential replacements. That's been understood to be completely incorrect. The Boro hierarchy have not spoken to anyone about potential replacements for Carrick, with Gibson having been determined to stand firm in the wake of Saturday's defeat. So, thoughts on this? Well, it doesn't surprise me, first and foremost. In the Project Boro video I did at the weekend, as I mentioned, I fully thought the end was nigh for Carrick. I thought with his team selection, substitutes, the fan reaction, I thought there was no going back, and that very well might remain the case. I still believe if the next game wasn't an away fixture, or the next 2 games weren't away fixtures, I think the outcome would have been different. I still stand by the thoughts that had Boro's next game been at the Riverside, the club would not have risked another toxic atmosphere like what we had at the weekend, with season card renewals imminent. But as I said in the video I did at the weekend, my gut feeling was that they would give him the next 2 games. And I feel like that could be the case, because, let's be honest, this can't continue for another 15 games. In fact, it can't continue for another game on its own. Things are so bad at the moment, things are so toxic within the fan base. Boro's playoff push is slipping through our fingers, and we can't have 15 more games of this. We simply can't. So for me, I don't know if Gibson is backing him for the foreseeable, off just game to game, or for the rest of the season. It sounds like he's backing him for the rest of the season and will stick with him regardless, but for me, it's quite clear he has to get 2 results from the next 2 games, because if we fail to beat Bristol City, then Stoke's going to be even worse, and if we fail to beat them, I don't even want to imagine what it could be like come March 1st for our next home game against Derby County. I think if Saturday was bad, that could be unthinkably bad. So although they're backing him for now, I still feel like the next two results remain absolutely key. And if the next two games continue to go the way that recent form has done, and I think he's got to win both. I genuinely do, or at least win one. If one's a draw and another's a defeat, God forbid they're both defeats, then I think they'll pull the trigger anyway. And it will make this a little bit pointless, and it will make, I guess, Gibson's doubling down of Michael Carrick seem even more stupid and foolish if we do go and lose the next two games, because all we've done then essentially is delay the inevitable, waste two more games and make our playoff chances even more unlikely by sticking with Michael Carrick. And I think if he doesn't win the next two, I think he should be sacked anyway. Previously, I thought he might be, he could be. I could see arguments for both. I've spent all weekend being torn on what is the right thing to do, but I think everyone can be unanimous in the fact that if he doesn't win the next two, if he loses the next two, there is literally no excuse. So the worry is, and I guess the risk Steve Gibson has taken here, is that he's seen to be backing his manager, but he might very well be going back against that in 2 games' time. This could be just delaying the inevitable if nothing changes. And I guess in another 2 games' time, Michael Carrick cannot have any excuses at all. If things don't change, he can't have any excuses if he's not given the boot in 2 games' time, because he's been given every possible chance by Steve Gibson. He backed him in the summer. He backed him in January. I know we sold our best player, but that, I think, it was the right thing to do down to just the economics of the football club and what sort of a club we are. And I do believe if performances had been better and had we been in and around the top 4, we wouldn't have sold Lattilath. So I think the whole reason as to why that sale was sanctioned was down to our league position, which is on Carrick as well. So I think this whole predicament that we're in is down to him and the team's performances, and he cannot complain one bit if things are done in 2 games' time. If he is given his P45, his marching orders, and he loses his job, he's been backed. He's been backed again. He's been backed here when it looked like he was on the ropes at the very least. So now it's down to him. And Steve Gibson might look foolish in 2 games' time if he ends up sacking him anyway. But you can't say he's not giving Carrick every possible opportunity to turn the ship around. So that's where we're at. As I say, the next 2 games are huge. I think he's got to win on Friday. I really do. I don't think just a win against Stoke and a defeat on Friday is good enough. I think he's got to win both games. I think Gibson is handing Carrick the initiative to show us what type of manager he is. This is where I think he proves whether he is good enough or not. When faced with real adversity, when you are being questioned and your owner has put faith in you to turn things around, this is where he simply has to do it. Now, do I think he will? I'm still incredibly sceptical. I really am. I've spent all weekend tossing and turning on what I think the right thing to do is. I think because I like Carrick's character and I'm desperate for him to do well, part of me was hoping that he was given more time, but then equally, it's an extremely high risk for Gibson to do so. So this is it now. This is it. I'm not that convinced he will. I'm just looking at what's happened in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months. Boro's inability to string together back-to-back wins, our defence, how poor it is, our squad, team selection, players' performances, how out of form they are, the new signings and how badly they've seemingly, set up and bedded in so far. It seems like a very, very big ask for this to turn around, but he's been given the opportunity to do so. And if Steve Gibson is backing Michael Carrick, I'm going to back Michael Carrick, and I'm going to hope and pray that on Friday night I'll be there, right behind the boys, right behind Michael Carrick, and I'll be as desperate as anyone that we can win on Friday and things might start to turn around, because we know things can turn around in football very, very quickly, and albeit unlikely, it's not impossible. So I'm going to be backing him 100% until we're told otherwise, and I do feel like this could be a short-term delaying the inevitable, or it could be a bold, brave move from Steve Gibson that does pay off in the end. Time will only tell. So let's see what happens. I think also there's maybe a degree of there just not being a good enough replacement available regardless. You know, there were rumours of other managers that Boro have not scouted, but I think Kieran Scott will have his finger on the pulse, no doubt, looking around at potential new managers. And I think as well, if there's no one ready to come in who fits, then there's no point changing him. The last thing I want is Boro to do something desperate and reactionary to get someone in short term who is just a panic buy, a panic hire, you could say. That's the last thing I want. I want Boro to be 110% sure that whoever's next, if we do move on, is someone who's right for the long term and will take this club forward. And if that person's not available right now, then I don't begrudge the club for sticking either. So this is it. Do or die, sink or swim. This is it for Michael Carrick. I think the next 2 games decide his job. He's either going to be in the dugout against Derby if we win the next 2, or he won't if we don't. So let me know your thoughts in the comments if you're a Boro fan or otherwise. I've seen so many different opinions. Some fans happy to back him, some fans demanding a change, some fans demanding a change underneath him. I can see that. Some people wanting Woodgate out, some people wanting this to change, that to change. For me, Woodgate's only as good as the person who's above him. Woodgate only sets up the defence in the manner that Carrick wants him to. Could we do better in the backroom staff? 100% we could do better. But are they the absolute blame as to why we are where we are? No, it's a collective. It's the recruitment, it's the backroom, it's Carrick, it's the players, it's everybody together. Everyone is in this as one, and they've all got to pull together as one and get us moving, including us fans. So I'm going to back him. Fingers crossed. Gibson has made the right call. He's known for being loyal. He's known for sticking to his guns. He wants stability. He wants it to work. I'd love it to work as well. So Friday is now a big one. So we'll see what happens. I'll be back here on the channel to preview the Bristol City game over the next few days. That is a huge one now. And as I mentioned at the weekend, I'm going to be back live on 7 p.m. on Wednesday night. There is a link already in the community tab on the channel for a live stream I'm going to be doing on Wednesday, which is going to be a Q&A, which has just probably gotten even more interesting. So if you're free on Wednesday night, feel free to join me for a Project Boro live Q&A, which should be fun. But until then, guys, do take care. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for more, comment below your thoughts, whether you like this decision or not. And yeah, I guess we've got to look forward to hopefully a turnaround at Bristol City. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.